you from above. I'm just a jaded lady. That's what my friends don't call me. Until you find that I'm a jaded lady. Oh, riding high on the west side, looking for a hood rat to play. Won't you come out and play?
Here we are at the Sylvester book. You know, I've been prolonging it because I was afraid that I was going to do it wrong. Okay, but I can't prolong it no more because it's in my craw and I got to get it out. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the most magnificent, whimsical ride, The Fabulous Sylvester by Joshua Gamson. Dooney's boyfriend on and off in the latter years of the 1960s was Lonnie Prince. Lonnie, as Diane Moorhead renders him, was chocolate brown, curly-haired, clear-eyed, and well-built. Okay, I love the Sylvester, y'all, and I promised you I wasn't going to be up to the shenanigans, but that was probably the last black man that Sylvester got with. Jackie Hoyle describes him as a Greek god. Sounds like a Sagittarian man, because you know all them built real good, like athletes or warriors. Dooney wasn't a quick catch, like some of us, said Hoyle. If a man was fine, most of us would screw him within the hour. That didn't swoop Donnie. It wasn't just F at first sight. The guy would really have to impress her, date her, and stuff like that. While the other girls would be looking at Lonnie, says Hoyle, foaming at the mouth, fanning, giggling like geisha girls. If I slip up and call Dooney Donnie, my bad, y'all. It took Lonnie Prince a few parties before Dooney was impressed. And then the two of them became the it couple. They were like the hot couple on campus at high school, says Moorhead, like the cheerleader and the quarterback. When he and Lonnie were off and on again, as they often were, or when he was simply in the mood, Dooney went tootling around town with Duchess. Duchess had originally wanted to be called Melinda, but along the way, some admiring boys pulled the "You Are My Duchess" line from the pop song Duke of Earl. The name stuck, perhaps because of Duchess's commanding and imperial demeanor. She grew up in a big Spanish-style house in the Wilshire district of Los Angeles. The child of upper-middle-class professionals, she started dressing at 15 and, like Tiki, used to climb out of the window at her mother's house. She'd tie sheets together and shimmy down the side of the house to go to gay parties. Damn, man, they try to make me seem like the baddest kid in the world. And now that I'm reading these books, I'm realizing, wait a minute, a lot of teenagers tried to sneak out and go to parties because I was constantly sneaking out going to go-go's. Damn, every day you learn something. I mean, for real, what it was with me, y'all, and I know you like, we talking about Sylvester, but I'd like to give you my take on things because the best thing about YouTube is you can always find somebody that's just like you. I was never a bad kid. I just kept running away because I wanted to be free. And free meant to go to a go-go. Remember, I had a young mama. My mama wanted to party. How can I go out and party when she want to party? Duchess had met Dooney around 1965 through her first boyfriend, Billy, who lived around the corner from Dooney's family. They became inseparable friends, though Duchess found the discotheques with their blue hair and roller skates and lights on their tits far too Barnum and Bailey. I'm not doing that kind of show, honey, she said. I am not wearing that shiz. I just want to be a pretty colored girl. Duchess appreciated Dooney's sense of style. Dooney always had taste, she says. He was a block from the tracks, baby. but he was miles from the people over there. Dooney and Duchess would date boys who thought they were girls and hot cock with them in the cars, letting them kiss and touch them through their blouses, but never letting them feel inside the clothes or below the waist. If they liked the boy, they might meet his mother. Now you just come back, dear. Boys' mothers would tell these nice, sweet girls when they went out as fabulous black girls shopping downtown or lunching at the Beverly Wilshire, they wished to be noticed as fabulous black girls. This reminds me of an episode in Pose. Once at a restaurant that few black people frequented, they arrived wearing blonde wigs cut in twiggy hairstyles, short, boyish, parted on the side, micro miniskirts, and utility belts on their hips. They were seated at a table behind a plant near the kitchen. "Oh, no, honey, this isn't working for me," Duchess said, eyeing a table in the center of the room. The maitre d' allowed that he thought that they would be happier where he had seated them. "Oh, no, honey, I don't think so. No," said Duchess Twiggy. "You don't want us to make a scene," Dooney Twiggy added, as the rest of the patrons looked on. "We want to be very visible," he said. After a while, Duchess grew impatient with paying Dooney's way on such outings. "You have to do something," Duchess would tell Dooney. Dooney agreed. "I'm going to be a star," he said. Such dramatic self-aggrandizing declarations were about as typical among the discotheques as false eyelashes, though. Anyway, future star or not, a girl had to pay the rent. Most people figured Dooney would turn out to be a hairdresser or maybe a fashion designer or a makeup artist. Others, however, were not surprised when years later he became a famous singer. He was always breaking into song in his churchy falsetto or humming along to a tune while the discotheques were spraying their wigs with Aquanet. By 1969, the discotheques had begun drifting apart, partly because they were getting too old, 19, 20, 21 years old, to button their dresses. They all turned into basketball players overnight, says Duchess. When you are 15 and 16, honey, even the toughest boys still got some little sweetness in them. But even hormones are not going to make Jim Brown soft. They all started getting hard. The jaws got tough. The razor bumps got harder. It was becoming the truck drivers' convention. Larry Hines and a few others had gone off to college. Other people moved away. Still others started working regular jobs. The ones who wanted to become women started towards surgery. Some, like Jackie and Benedetta, just didn't want to drag anymore. Dooney still was moving away. He had moved back in with his mother and stepfather for much of 1969. Unlike Duchess, who had always felt herself a woman and who in 1974 would officially become one through surgery, Dooney also enjoyed being a boy. He wanted to express that feminine side, and it was very, very strong, Duchess says. But I don't think she ever wanted to be a woman. Dooney enjoyed using his penis, then tucking it. You know who this reminds me of? What's her name? Maddie. And you know, to be quite honest, y'all might be mad at me when I say this. But from what I understand, them girls that be out on the street making their money, they get far more money when they keep their pickle than when they don't. Blink if you know what I'm saying. I mean, just like in a series Pose, remember, what's her name? The dark-skinned one, the house mother. What's her name? Electra? Something like that. Remember this. Her lover took very good care of her until she got that surgery. Okay? And as far as I'm concerned, it's a lot to go with that surgery. All right? You got to constantly, do the ding ding in there. Because if you don't, it'll close up. Yeah, that's what I understand about the surgery. If you don't penetrate yourself just about every night, that shit'll close up. Dooney still wore lots of jewelry, but his drag became a bit more androgynous. Big bell bottoms with a peasant blouse, maybe, and a colorful headscarf. Some days he would paint his face into a beautiful woman's, then go out in boy clothes. I like that. I mean, they doing that now, to be quite honest. You got so many gay men out here that wear beards, and I hate to say it, but it's attractive. Like, who does a good job? Messy C does a good job of having a beard and still coming off very feminine. Uh, who else does that? The one Chanel from DC. Oh, she does a very good job. Well, he does a very good job at having a feminine face with a beard and still coming off very sexy. In 1967, when Tiki's hormone breasts first got big enough to show off, she debuted them at a discotheque party while Dooney screeched over Martha and the Vandellas, Honey Chow, and played the tambourine. On a trip down to Hollywood in the early spring of 1970, a San Franciscan named Reggie Donegan walked into the Whiskey A Go-Go, a rock dance club that had opened in an old bank on the Sunset Strip several years before and had already become known as the place to be for up-and-coming musical acts and general madness. Jim Morrison and the Doors had been the house band there. Go-Go girls danced in cages. That night, Reggie was wearing a blonde wig and a band leader costume with big brass buttons. He saw standing along the wall a tall, dark, and handsome person with pierced ears, wearing a blunt cut wig, men's parts, and a dress with the front cut open to make a smart little jacket. We both just like zoomed in on each other, he recalled many years later, because we were like men with sort of female touches around the edges. They were also two of only a few black boy groupies at the Whiskey. The man with the female touches introduced himself as Sylvester. Reggie and Sylvester started dancing, and Reggie told Sylvester about the scene up in San Francisco where he and a gaggle of assorted individuals had started putting on Busby Berkeley on Drugs show at midnight, calling themselves the Cockettes. How Sylvester wound up actually joining the Cockettes is another story on which there seems to be some disagreement. Crema Ritz, a cockette known then as Big Durl and then briefly as Harold Thunderpussy, remembers that Sylvester was crashing with Tomata Du Plenty, an acquaintance who was himself a visitor on the floor of a huge Victorian flat on Hayes Street. Tamata Creamer recalls, brought Sylvester over to the Cockette house on Hyde Street for a visit. A Cockette named Tahir recalls that Sylvester had just moved into a flat with two roommates at the top of a long staircase where he had a few unpacked boxes and a mattress on the floor. Tahir had been seeing Sylvester regularly at the Stud, a bar south of Market Street where everybody far out went every night. One night, Tahar recalls Sylvester invited everyone at the Stud to his flat for a party, and Tahar showed up with about 30 other people. Word got out that Sylvester did Billie Holiday impersonations. Sylvester pulled out a little square hi-fi and put on a Billie Holiday album. Let me tell you something. I got my favorite gay down here, okay? I forget her stage name, but her name is Reggie or Reginald in real life. And when I tell you she did Strange Fruit, y'all, I'm so mad because I can't upload it. That she did such a good job that the motherfuckers gave me a copyright strike. Okay, so I can't upload it. If you're not following my favorite gay, I'm telling you, I mean, she's drag queens, but I don't know, the pronouns over there. But she has invited me to her karaoke nights several times down here in the Atlanta, but I ain't had time to go over there, child, because now I'm working. I definitely don't have time. But baby, if you could see her perform, and she kind of has that chocolatey, big boned look like Sylvester. She's amazing. Wait, no, hold on, he said. I have to do it with a gardenia in my hair. He found a white flower and put it in his hair and restarted the record. Now, this is how Sylvester really got in. All right. Some of the Cockettes had already said that they were going to do a mock choir, a mock gospel choir. And when they heard Sylvester do his thing, they was like, oh, honey. They grabbed their pearls. Oh, honey, this is exceptional. This must be a part of our show. Later that weekend, Sylvester and Reggie spent the day wandering into thrift stores in Haight-Ashbury. By the time they got to the lower heights, Sylvester had accumulated on his body a woman's suit, silk stockings, women's shoes, a woman's jacket, and a feathered hat. Damn, Reggie said to himself, this bitch can shop. She found everything she needed and put it right on and just wore it in the street brazen. I wonder if she paid for it, because you know that Sylvester got sticky fingers. Passing the time, Sylvester sat down at a piano, and I hadn't a clue that he was talented in musical or anything, Reggie said. I thought he was just some queen. He started playing piano, and it was the old-fashioned tinkling kind of piano that made you feel you were in 1920, and it was fabulous. Everyone turned around, and our jaws were dropped. Let me tell you what he did. MICKEYMOUSC. Not like that, but way better. This dude took the Mickey Mouse Club theme song and turned it out. Them ninjas was impressed. Sylvester agreed to be in a Cockettes show. A few weeks later, he performed his version of the Mickey Mouse Club song for a screaming crowd at the palace, wearing a cowgirl skirt. It was like running off with the circus and like coming home. In 1964, with the pictures to prove it, Life magazine had declared San Francisco the gay capital of the United States of America. MICKEYMOUSC. Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse. By the summer of 1970, having pulled together a few successful palace shows, the Cockettes were becoming the San Francisco's countercultural's vaudeville. The Cockettes' home life was as scrappy and gender-fucky as their palace performance. Reality is fantasy, and fantasy is reality to the Cockettes. The journalist Maureen Orth wrote in 1971, their lifestyle is carefully contrived to blur, if not actually diminish, the distinction between the two. LSD was so common, says Sweet Pam, that we almost brushed our teeth with it. I would have never took LSD because remember when George Clinton, when we read his book, they called it the boo-boo pill. Your stomach would be so messed up that you could literally be in public and poop yourself. It seemed like the Cockettes lived off the land. How a Cockette would go to the next city over and be like, I'm brand new here. I'm broke. I got 7 kids. We ain't got nowhere to live or to eat. And then come back to the Cockette establishment with like $1,600 worth of food stamps. Well, the Cockettes, Sylvester liked to say, when you walk down the street and you see somebody sitting in a mud puddle and they invite you to jump in and you do, that's the Cockettes. Sylvester, jumping right into the puddle, moved into the Haight Street Chateau, the name the Cockettes gave their main commune, where most of them moved after the flat on Bush and Baker burned down in a grass skirt on fire incident. How much you want to bet them mothers was on LSD when that incident happened? Come on. Look, Joshua Gamson, I appreciate your editorial skills, but girl, okay, you could have talked to somebody about what happened with that grass skirt, girl. Did y'all smoke the grass skirt? What happened? Sylvester shared a room with Tahara and Sandy, whom Tahara describes as a mildly retarded queen who sucked her thumb. Sandy slept in a loft, and Tahara slept to one side. Sylvester moved in under the loft and put up heavy floral curtains as a partition on two sides. He decorated his little space at the Height Street Chateau with a cobbled together 1920s to 1940s melange. Sylvester, like Tahara and sometimes Sandy, would bring men back to the room from the stud, usually, Tahara says, white hippie guys with long hair. The roommates would hear each other having sex, and once Tahara walked in to see through a gap in Sylvester's curtains, Sylvester straddling white hippie guys with long hair. I told you, that black dude, what's his name? Lonnie Prince? Oh, that was the last black dude that Sylvester ever had. Okay, and I'm a fan of Sylvester, but let's keep it real. Sylvester shared the Cockettes' affinity for outrageous flaming, their celebrations of sex and of gayness, their love of acid and good hash, and their bent musical fantasies. Okay, I would have to admit that I do like rock operas, like Tommy and Yellow Submarine. That was a good one. The Rocky Horror Picture Show. I do. I love those, but I ain't about to drop no acid and get it done. Sylvester was the only black person in the flat, and he kept to himself a lot.